Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Fraser McKenzie here, one of the main commentators for the Talk of the Devil Racing League, and as of this Saturday, the main commentator for the Talk of the Devil Elite League. This has been set up throughout the transfer window, which is reaching its climax. The reason I say that is because we have all but one of the transfers confirmed, and the last transfer is going to be announced by the man I'm going to be interviewing this week for our weekly interview. It is our defending champion and the CEO of the Talk of the Devil League, Mr. Callum Harrod. Callum, welcome along this evening.
Thank you very much. How you doing? You all right?
Not too bad. Just so we get this out of the way, how's your recovery coming along?
Yeah, slow is the only word for it, really. Got a little bit more feeling in my foot, but other than that, not really much improvement, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's progress which is the main thing, and I've often said any progress is better than no progress at all.
Exactly. It's a long road, but I'll get there.
So, yeah, just before we get into the interview questions, we're going to go through the transfers that have been confirmed, and Callum is going to be announcing the last transfer that's just been confirmed within the last few minutes. So, let's get into the transfer news. There's been a lot of transfers put in. We've had drivers announcing they were leaving their respective teams before announcing where they were going to afterwards, or whether they were going to be out of a seat for the time being. We've had roughly a dozen transfers happening. There has been a lot of transfer news over the course of this week, but nevertheless, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the transfers. First up, we have Jorge Klatzer, who was at Williams at the start of the season. He has now transferred to Toro Rosso, so good step up there, given his strong performances this season so far. Anthony Waddington was a reserve driver. He has now been promoted to a full-time seat at Williams, as well as Michael Booker, who was also a reserve driver. Anthony Waddington especially, some stellar performances this season so far, including a sportsmanlike third place in Baku, which me and one of my guest commentators, Willem Mare, had the pleasure of commentating on that weekend. The next transfer that was announced, I'm going through these, by the way, folks, in order of when the news was announced. Devon Little, who was at Alfa Romeo, is now at Racing Point. Gareth Lambourne and Lee Edwards are reunited as teammates. They were teammates throughout last season, and they're back together as teammates this season. Gareth was at Haas. Lee Edwards was at Toro Rosso. They are now both teammates once again, this time at Renault. And then one of the biggest news stories, and this is just the start of it, Callum Harrod announcing that he was leaving the Mercedes team. This essentially threw the champion. This was one of those news stories that just threw the championship wide open as far as who was going to try and go for the championship this season. But 5 races in, still early days. Stephen Harrison's the one that's leading the championship at the moment. Sorry about that, folks. I had a couple of technical glitches there. So I'll start the list again. So what's happened is I'm reading the transfer news in order of when the news was announced. So Jorge Klatzer was at Williams at the start of the season. He is now at Toro Rosso. We've got 2 reserve drivers that got promoted to full-time seats. They are both at Williams, Anthony Waddington and Michael Booker. Anthony Waddington especially, stellar performance from him throughout the opening part of the season. It's 3 podiums on the trot, I believe it is, for Waddington, including a stellar 3rd place in Azerbaijan. Then we've got...
Yeah, he's doing really well, to be fair to him. He definitely deserves a full-time seat.
Yeah. So yeah, And Devon Little was at Alfa Romeo. He is now at Racing Point. The next two were announced at the same time. They were both teammates throughout season one. They're now teammates once again. Gareth Lambourne was at Haas. Lee Edwards was at Toro Rosso. They are now both teammates at Renault. And the first major news to break from this transfer window was I've got to give credit to Cesar Lopez for creating these news articles. They've done a fantastic job with these. Announcing that there was rumours of Callum Harrod leaving the Mercedes team, which could have potentially thrown the championship wide open this season. But there's 5 races. We're 5 races in, still early days. Stephen Harrison for Mercedes leading the championship. The Mercedes establishment leading the Constructors' Championship. Next, we had Matthew Dixon, who was my co-commentator for season 1. Now racing this season, was at Renault. He is now at Haas. Chris Bethel, not too long after that, announcing he was leaving Renault. And then we've got Kyle Keegan, who was at McLaren. He's now at Alfa Romeo. Jamie Callan was at Toro Rosso. He is now at McLaren. Luke Unthank, if that's how we pronounce his name, apologies if I pronounced it wrong, was at McLaren. He was a reserve driver throughout season 1. He's now at Alfa Romeo. And due to scheduling conflicts, Hussein Marquez announced that he was leaving Alfa Romeo. And I mentioned Cesar Lopez a couple of minutes ago. A big transfer for him from Racing Point up to Red Bull. That's a big transfer there. But the next two, oh boy, business just picked up. Dino Harrison, Stephen's little brother, was at Red Bull, is now going to be Stephen's teammate at Mercedes. From sibling rivalry to sibling teammates. And I thought that was the biggest transfer news throughout this week. But oh boy, this next one pretty much trumped the lot. Callum Harrod, defending champion, was at Mercedes from the start of the league, is now at McLaren. And I thought to myself, that is the last 2 transfers there, Dean and Callum, game changers for the championship. And now,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be interesting now.
Absolutely, yeah. And now, I'm going to hand you over to Callum, who's going to announce the last transfer that's just been confirmed within the last hour. So, Callum, who's this last transfer that's just been confirmed?
Well, the last transfer is another reserve driver that's actually stepping up. Joe, who is now manager of Red Bull, Toro Rosso, has announced that Joe Newman will be stepping into an empty Toro Rosso seat.
Fantastic there. So there we go. That is all the transfers that have just been confirmed over the course of this week. It'll be very exciting to see how that all plays out. And the sad thing is, though, I'm not going to be able to see these transfers in action because I'm now commentator for the Elite League, which got set up over the course of this week. But now to get into the next part, which is the interview with Callum. So, how long have you been following Formula One for? Is it a different driver, same questions every week?
Yeah, probably when I was about 8 years old, to be fair. So yeah, fairly long time now.
So, following it as long as I have, essentially.
Yeah, good number of years, shall we say?
Yeah. And how long have you been playing the F1 games for?
In 2002, I believe. was the first one I played.
Yeah, I remember playing the F1 2000 game a while back when on the PC, and then I've played every Codemasters game since they started making the Codemasters games back in 2009. Yes, I did play F1 2009 on the Wii. A lot of fans don't like that one. Uh, but so yeah, this will be a very this next question is going to be interesting for you, Callum, since you're the CEO of the league. What do you think about the Talk of the Devil League?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely taken off more than what I thought it was going to when we put it together, and we've had our hiccups along the way, but I think that we're in the process of making what is a very enjoyable and competitive league, and we're expanding massively with the link up with Extreme One, and now the beginning of the Elite League opening up this weekend for their practice race before their league starts next week. So yeah, I'm happy with where we are and where we've come from and where we're going. So yeah, just looking forward to the future now, and hopefully we can keep expanding and keep growing and better as a league.
Yeah, and there's a interesting thing about this, folks. I was actually approached by Callum towards the tail end of last year about an opportunity to be part of the league. We ended up having a few laps round one of the tracks. Then I decided to have a crack at being a team manager because my pace wasn't that good. So I tried my hand at team managing, and then I thought to myself, I think I might have a stab at being Murray Walker. And if you guys check out my personal YouTube channel, by the way, where a lot of the first season of the Talk of the Devil League is on, um, we actually have the official commentary test that I did with Callum and Joe Allen, who were teammates at the time, and they were thoroughly impressed. And here we are.
Yeah, I remember that race distinctively. If I remember rightly, I overtook Joe on the last lap on the last corner.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you said your exact words at that point were, and I think Fraser's just had a heart attack. Or,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. So 5 races in, we've just had the transfer window. What are your thoughts on season 2 so far?
Yeah, from a personal aspect, it's been a little bit disappointing. Obviously, I was doing well at Australia, but was pushing a bit too hard and clipped the wall, and then missed Bahrain, crashed at China. Had a good result at Baku, but technical issues sort of plagued that as well.
Hmm.
And then obviously missed the last race due to health reasons, and so yeah, it's not been great from my point of view personally. But I think for sort of how the league's going and how this season has been for everyone and the competitiveness has been brilliant. It's nice to see Steve leading the championship, and I'm sure him and Gary will fight right down to the wire. And obviously, I'm happy to see Mercedes top of the constructors.
Yeah, that's not really too big a surprise. I'm actually going to skip the next question with what your goals for season 2 were. I mean, one of them would have obviously been defending the championship, but doesn't look realistically doesn't look like that's going to be happening due to your health issues. So we'll just skip over that one. But if you were still racing, what would your goals for season 2 have been anyway?
Yeah, I think if I was still at Mercedes and still fit, it would have been to carry on and defend the championship and make sure we defended the constructors as well. But the constructors is in safe hands now with Dean and Steve, and I think that yeah, I hope Steve carries on and wins the championship. He's a really good lad, and he didn't have the best of luck at the start of last season. So yeah, he deserves a good season this season, given a chance to show his true pace.
Yeah, he's definitely shown that he's won 4 of the first 5 races this season. The only race he didn't win was, of course, Bahrain, and that was no, actually he did win in Bahrain. It was Australia he didn't win because that was Gary Brandon that won that race. Anyway, I think this next one's going to probably be an easy one for you. But what's your best memory from season 1?
The season one, it's difficult to choose actually. I mean, winning the championship obviously is right up there, but I think my best memory really is the battle that I had with Steve at the tail end of Mexico, and I think the whole of Mexico really was just a really good weekend for me. Pip and pole with all three of us being within thousandths of a second of each other, and yeah, and then going on to have that battle with Steve and ultimately winning the race. I think yeah, that's definitely got to be my best race from last season.
Yeah. And do you feel you have a rival in the league from last season and this season? Do you feel you have a rival in the league?
I think that possibly it's difficult. I mean, I think Gary was my rival, but obviously with me changing teams now, it could be a little bit interesting to see who my rival will turn out to be. There's a good number of drivers sort of in the midfield, but I think that we have a very, very strong team now at McLaren, you know, with both me and Jamie being at McLaren. So it could be, yeah, it could be really interesting to sort of see what we can do with that team, see how high up we can actually get that McLaren team.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I've done this with the last four guys I did with interviews, and I'm going to do the same here. Going to combine these next two together. First part is who's your favorite F1 driver, and the second part is what would you ask them if you got the opportunity to meet them?
Um, I think my favourite F1 driver's got to be Hamilton. Since he come into the sport, he sort of took it by storm, and you know I really appreciate watching him. To be fair, and I think the question I would ask him is how his what sort of happened and how his relationship with Nicole Scherzinger didn't work.
That would that would actually be very interesting. I'm actually intrigued. I want to know what happens. I want to know the answer to that one now that you mention it. Yeah. Yeah. But next, penultimate question. What, in your view, is the best overtake you have seen in all your years of watching Formula One?
Oh, that's a tricky one. There's been a few, isn't there? Oh, that's a hard one, isn't it? I don't know, to be honest. There's a few, but I think that it would have to be when Hamilton. I can't remember who he overtook, but when he overtook on the last corner at Brazil when he went on to win the championship, just for the sheer importance of it.
Say it with me, folks. Is that Glock? Is that Glock going slowly? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that one.
I say you couldn't remember who it was. I mean, that line of commentary pretty much said it there. It was Timo Glock. He was still on dry tires, and the track was starting to get wetter.
Yeah, no, I think it has to be out just for just the sheer importance of it. You know, it's not obviously a good overtake,
That's it.
but yeah, for the importance, it's got to be my favourite.
It was the drama of it all, just going down literally to the last corner of the championship.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And last question for you this evening. If you could go back in time, which F1 car would you most like to drive from history?
I'd have to be Schumacher's Ferrari, wouldn't it?
Mm,
Got to be.
he's had a couple of iconic Ferraris over the years. If you had to choose
Yeah,
one, which one would you go
to
for?
be. Oh, I don't know. Really don't know, to be honest with you, mate. I'd like to have a bash at all of them, to be fair.
So, so there we go. Just any Schumacher Ferrari.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So there we go. So that is it, folks. There'll be no Talk of the Devil league race this week because with it being a transfer week, they're going to allow the drivers time to get used to their new cars. But the Elite League race, which is going to involve some new faces I've not seen before, and some of the regulars that were part of the regular league, which will take place on Saturday. And judging by the poll, they are very adamant on doing the practice race at Monaco.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that race at Monaco. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I see. And this will be the first time the Talk of the Devil League in any capacity has done a race at Monaco. But of course, with this being the elite league, this is where you've got the cream of the crop. Some of them legends in the community, others just outright incredible drivers, and you'll have the pleasure of me doing the commentary for that first elite race. And then it'll be business as usual with the Extreme One Racing League. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this evening. We've done the transfer news, we've done the interview with Callum. Thanks very much for your time this evening. And again, we, from all of us at the Talk of the Devil League, we wish you all the best and hopefully a speedy recovery. And we'll hopefully see you back on track pretty soon.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah, and that is it this evening, folks. Next time you'll be seeing me is on Saturday for the Talk of the Devil Elite League practice race at Monaco. And until then, it's good night from me, good night from Callum, and thanks for watching.